Hello, I'm Peter Parsons, your town supervisor, and I'd like to bring you an update on what's been happening in the town. January the 1st saw 2 new members join the town board. Tony Gonzalez from Goldens Bridge and Jane Crimmins from Twin Lakes. They joined Dan Welsh, John Pappalardo, and myself. So we are your new town board. So what have we done in the last 6 months? First of all, we've kind of worked on the things which during the campaign residents talked about the most. And there were 4 issues which women and men talked about. First of all, taxes. Believe it or not, most people think our taxes are too high. Big news. But it's worthwhile remembering that only $7.50 of each $100 you pay in real estate taxes actually goes to the town. This is way less than you would end up paying in Bedford or in North Salem or Pound Ridge. So what are we doing? Well, we just continue to watch every penny to make sure that this doesn't go up too much. The second thing that people talk about is public safety. Your police force is more prepared than ever before. We have 3 full-timers who grew up and know this town and live in this town. They combine with 10 part-timers who bring vast experience to the job. Obviously, we are spending a lot of time working with the schools so that we remain vigilant to prevent any serious incidents. We are also training our police to handle domestic violence situations. These situations comprise our largest number of serious calls. To help with this, we have combined with 4 other towns in northeastern Westchester to create a resource center for victims of this crime. This resource center counsels people and also helps train our police force to handle these situations. The third thing that people talk about is roads. Back in 2013, we commissioned Cornell road engineers to come up with a plan to redo our roads. We've been following that plan as well as we can. And right now, we've got to the point where this is the first year since 2006 that we will be doing significant road work without borrowing to fund it. In 2018, we'll be doing Ridgefield Avenue, repaving it, and it is a particularly long road for a town road. We will be working on Peaceable Street, which is a particularly short road, but in a sense, it is an extension of Ridgefield Avenue, so you do it at the same time. We will be doing Long Pond and Logging Road, Long View Road, and Scotts Lane. If by any chance there's any money left over, we will look for other opportunities. The fourth thing that people talked to us about was cell service, or rather the lack of it. In 2005, the Lewisboro Ledger had a headline that seamless cell service was coming to Lewisboro, and that was the new reality. 2005? Well, we haven't done very well on making that happen. And because, quite honestly, it is way harder than one might think. Right now, as you probably know, we are working to fill the most critical hole in our system, from a public safety point of view and from a size of population point of view. The most dangerous stretch of road in this town is Route 35 in Cross River. There is no cell service there, and by most dangerous, I mean the stretch of road not in which there are the most accidents, but the most accidents with injuries which require an ambulance. There, at the moment, you can have an accident in the valley of the Cross River and be able to call nobody. The John Jay campus has no real service. Orchard Square has no service. Michelle Estates has no service. Four Winds has no service. And LVAC itself has no service. If we are successful in getting a cell tower into Cross River, it will result in much improved communication for LVAC and for everybody else in the area. LVAC in particular, because Homeland Towers, the company we're working with, has agreed to make some very specific improvements to LVAC's communications. I believe this will be a big step forward for the town. Every time the town has put in a new cell tower or been part of putting in a new cell tower, the people near that cell tower protest. Amusingly, somewhat, when I talk to people in my end of town, in Vista, and ask them about the cell tower at the firehouse, and ask them how much they notice it, the first thing I've got to do is remind them where it is. Homeland Towers does a pretty good job of helping to disguise them. And we were currently working to come up with a suitable disguise for Cross River. There isn't much room to change where we're planning to put it, because every single private or school property in the area has made it very clear that they do not want it on their land. So we're left with a piece of land owned by the town. And the only piece of land owned by the town which works, and it works very well, is the property currently occupied by the Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps. In addition, we've passed some laws. First of all, we've passed a law which may seem trivial. It's about dog poop or feces, to be more correct. The problem is not that widespread in town, but the problem becomes intense in our parks, particularly Onatru, the town park, and Fox Valley. In each of these parks, people are bad at picking up after their dog. It's also a real problem in the lake communities where the roads are narrow, and because they're beautiful, a large number of people very reasonably want to walk their dogs there. All we're asking is that we become good neighbors to each other and pick up after our dogs. Am I really planning to have an intensive police presence to hand out tickets? No, of course not. But I am suggesting that if you see somebody violating the law, you quietly remind them of the existence of the law, and that if a policeman were to see them, they would be subject to quite a big fine. I really believe that that is something we can do to be friendly to all the other residents in town. And really, the law is a way of advertising that fact and a way of allowing you to quietly remind your neighbors that there is a law, and the neighborly thing to do is to pick up. The second law we've passed is one which allows single subject schools in residential areas. Previously, schools were allowed in residential areas, but only if they had a complete, comprehensive curriculum. The purpose of this is that there are some very good supplementary courses which can be offered. And some of them, quite honestly, do quite a lot to create a community with higher value homes. We know, for instance, that any school teaching cultural subjects increases home values. We know that people who teach things like robotics have got an ability to increase home values. There is also, very obviously, an area of town, the old Lewisboro Elementary School, which is very much available for this kind of activity, and the rent which people would pay to work out of there goes to reduce your school taxes. Next one. We have passed a law about retail checkout bags and styrofoam. The purpose of the law is to encourage the use of reusable bags and to essentially ban plastic bags at checkout. It will also, at the same time, ban styrofoam cups and containers, except when the goods have been delivered to the retailer in those cartons. Why are we doing this? Eventually, almost all plastic bags and plastic other stuff ends in our water system. Yes, it goes into a trash heap if you're lucky, but eventually it dissolves into micro pieces and goes through the earth and ends up in the inland waterways and the oceans. When it gets there, the larger pieces can actually choke fish and choke sea mammals. But more insidious is the fact that the microparticles are eaten by fish called bivalves. Bivalves are mussels, oysters, scallops, clams, who feed by filtering the water through their bodies. The microplastics go into their bodies and stay there. The result is that a University of London research study showed that for every 3.5 ounces of mussels that you eat, you ingest 70 particles of plastic. That is truthfully not good. Let's move on to discussing the community side of Lewisboro. First, we've had 5 Eagle Scouts in the last 6 months complete their courts of honor, and that is a real achievement which we should be proud of as a community. We have also heard that people want occasions where they can meet other people. One of the things, we've done 2 things recently. On the 24th of June, we had an ice cream social, which was a huge success, which had a large number of people there, and everybody seemed to have a first-class time. We need to do more of that, obviously. On the 30th of June, we had our fireworks show at Onatru, thanks in part, obviously, to our Park and Rec department, but also to Mercedes-Benz of Goldens Bridge, who, along with other donors, have paid for essentially all of this. In the future, on Friday the 13th of July, at Old Field, which is off Mead Street, just about where Mead Street and Schoolhouse join, we are going to have the debut of an event called Old Field Unplugged. What we will have is an acoustic band or group play at the Meditation Garden. This has been put together by Dean Travellino and Bobby Stultz. I support it to the hilt. I think it is a first-class idea. It is, in fact, an opportunity to picnic in Old Field, listen to the music, and drink the odd bit of beer or wine. The next day, on the 14th, the Saturday, Hamlet will be performed in the town park. Maybe that sounds weirdly serious, but if you think about Hamlet just a little, the problems are problems which still exist in this life. The problems of parents doing stupid things and the effect on the child. That's what Hamlet is about. I really suggest that you come to that with an open mind and forget that Shakespeare was a bore when you were at school, and just think about the problems that he is addressing in that play. Finally, on the 22nd of September, the library fair will be at Onatru. And all of these taken together are opportunities to meet your neighbors, are opportunities for the town to come together more as a community, and I hope you will take advantage of as many of them as you can. In the future, there are 2 things your board has just agreed to do. We are going to put in pickleball courts at the town park, 2 of them. Why? Because there is a group of citizens, an ever-growing group of citizens in this town, let's say people of 60 plus, which is the booming demographic in the town, who are not served that well by the current offerings of Park and Rec. So, pickleball is a game designed for that age group. It's a racket sport, but it's one in which you don't have to backpedal the whole time. When you play tennis, you may have noticed there's a lot of backpedaling, a lot of running forward, a lot of running back, a lot of going to one side and a lot of going back to the other. This is a sport where, while you're hitting the ball with a racket, you don't have to move that much, which is why it has become so popular with slightly older people. We have been very surprised by the reception to this. I and Dana have been discussing doing this for some time. The amazing thing is how much people have heard that this discussion is going on and have called us and said, will you please get on with it instead of just talking about it? So we've now agreed as a board to get on with it and put in these 2 courts at the town park. The other thing, we are going to put a composting toilet into Onatru. Onatru has large events, and quite honestly, the current toilets are not sufficient and become unpleasant by the end of these events. So we've decided we're to put in a composting toilet there, very similar to the one we've already got at the town park. The one at the town park has been a huge success. And although it may not sound as if it's cleaner than a water flushing toilet, in fact, it seems to end up being the cleanest darn toilet you can put together. We got this idea in part from the county and also from North Salem, which use them a lot. And it seemed to be an obvious way of expanding our toilet facilities at Onatru, which clearly need expansion. One last thing. It is easy to criticize our shopping center owners. But the Cross River Shopping Center, Orchard Square, has now put in tables, plants, which look very attractive, and a couple of small tree shrubs, I'm not quite sure which they are, in the corner, right next to 2 restaurants, and you've got, well, more than 2, at least 3 restaurants. You've got Dunkin' Donuts up the way, so that you can now, in nice weather, stroll down to the tables and chairs there and eat, have dinner with the stuff you've bought, or just drink a coffee. You can meet people there. You can agree to meet people there and have a small meeting maybe. Along with eating and drinking your coffee, just in case you end up spending too long there, you will notice that there is a particularly attractive clock there. A clock which rings out the time for you, which plays music. It is truthfully another good addition. It is yet again a way to boost community in the town, and I'd like to congratulate the owner of that shopping center on putting it in. Thank you very much. I hope you will agree that it's been a very productive 6 months.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.